understand.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
Coffee, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Eight a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, July 17th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. We're wrapping up a great conversation with Laura Carno on the rise of assaults taking place in schools. And Francis from Golden giving us a call because he's had to be involved legally with some of these situations. Good morning, Francis. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, morning.
Hey, guys. How goes it? Hey, I actually represented a teacher fairly recently who was assaulted by a student and badly injured her knee in the process. He pushed her down a flight of stairs. And there's a couple of things that I rely on somebody else to try to, figure me out on this thing. But I think that if you brought suit against the parents, it would only be limited to $3,500 for any sort of willful assault statutorily. And so an idea would be to maybe bump that up a bit and put some more responsibility on the parents for it. The problem is all of these things are not going to be covered by insurance. It's a problem. It's a willful thing. It's they're acting criminally. So, the other thing that I was thinking, and I'm not sure about this. I'm really not sure about this. So I'd like to hear if anybody else knows. But this particular district, I think, had declining enrollment. And this particular kid was enrolled, I think, to help keep the numbers up. And he shouldn't have been. I mean, the kid was just basically a criminal. The parents were basically criminals. And you couldn't do anything about it. I mean, the parents just, you can't get blood out of a turnip, and these two parents are turnips, and that's insulting to turnips. Believe me, my statement there. But, what can you do? I mean, you're limited to what I could get her in workers' comp. And district fought about that a bit, but it's an interesting problem. I think the first things first, you got to bump up that limit, and that would hold a parent responsible. And I'm pretty sure that's the limit is $3,500. I'd have to look into it, but at least that would help get some, parental responsibility online. So.
Francis, I love it. I appreciate you coming in with some real-world experience and proposing some ideas to be considered. As we pointed out during the last hour, 75% of educators polled across the state of Colorado have had a student attempt to cause physical injury or to them or to another adult in their presence. 50% of teachers have been physically injured by a student. Yeah. Something that's got to be addressed.
It's absurd.
Francis,
it's absurd.
Great call. Sure appreciate
Hey, thanks,
it. We've got a great hour coming up for you. We're going to talk with this artist, Mary Cutter. Bill, there's a few times, because I'm not a big music guy. I kind of know music, but I'm just kind of scrolling through social media, and I remember when Rich Men North of Richmond hit, and I was doing a radio show. I think I was filling in for Randy Corporate, and I said, guys, this is going to be big. This is like music that hits the soul.
Yeah.
Right? This is not poppy little entertainment music. This is music written from a place of serious frustration and pain that reaches a lot of people. Came across this song by Mary Cutter about the opioid industry and how it destroyed middle America, titled Devil Wore a Lab Coat. We're going to play it for you in a second, coming up after News and Comment with Blake. And then we're going to talk with Mary Cutter, who's going to be playing Sturgis. This is awesome. This is an incredibly talented young lady that you're going to want to follow. She's got a big future ahead of her. Already 200 million streams, written songs that have reached Billboard's top 20 hits. So we actually get to hang out with someone famous, which is very cool.
This is going to be awesome.
Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Hey, good morning. Thursday, 62 and mostly cloudy in Denver. Expecting a high of 86 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, 47 was on fire on Wednesday, livid, because the administration knows that Democrats are up to their old tricks now. But he said people in the Republican Party are wasting time on what he calls the Epstein hoax. He was surprised by some Republicans who got duped and followed the Democratic playbook of going after him with false stories like Russia, 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 and that hoax. He did not handle it well, and neither did the administration. A messaging problem, to say the least. Pundits have plenty of theories. I mean, hundreds of theories out there. And I think Glenn Beck's actually makes sense.
How do we know it's true, what's not true? Theory 5 is they knew I was campaigning. One of my campaign promises was to release the files. Somebody went in, the same people went in, and made all of this stuff point to me as if I'm some kingpin in it. Why is it the left never wanted this released until he said, I'm not going to release it? Why is Congress, the Democrats in Congress, all of a sudden saying, you've got to release this? You've got to release this. This is impeachable if he doesn't release it. Really?
They had 4 years to do it. He did pull a 180 on Wednesday, but that is why. I truly believe that. The president, again, stood by Attorney General Pam Bondi, saying she only released what she thought is credible from the files. Senate Republicans are giving the green light to cut funding for PBS and NPR. GOP lawmakers narrowly passed a package early this morning that would take back $9 billion in spending that had already been approved. It's part of the efforts of Doge and Elon. First-time requests for unemployment benefits are down. Most analysts had been expecting the Labor Department to report a bit of an increase in the number of Americans filing new applications for unemployment assistance. Instead, today's number came in at 221,000, down 7,000 from the previous week's revised total. Laura Carno, Executive Director, Faster Colorado, joining Jeff and Billy last hour. The Educator Safety Task Force surveyed 1,100 educators from across the state, asking if they had ever had a student try to cause physical injury to them or another adult in the room.
74%. Stunning. Unless you know somebody in education who has shared stories like this, you might not have known it. What I'm finding is if you know somebody in education, specifically people who left education because of some of these issues, you might not know that number.
And that was only one of the questions. The incidents are not being reported by administrations, and the problem is being swept under the rug. But Carno, just one of the great Coloradans raising awareness. It was 74%. Once again, that's amazing. Aurora's mayor Mike Kaufman says there's an ongoing feeling of distrust between his city and the city and county of Denver. Kaufman was asked about the tension between the two governments during Wednesday's State of the Cities event at the Denver Center for Performing Arts. Kaufman claims Denver sent illegal immigrants to Aurora using a third-party nonprofit and has demanded reimbursement for the money spent by his city. Denver Mayor Johnston denied those claims while also saying his door is always open to Kaufman. The two mayors agreed to hold a meeting to talk about their differences and resolve Aurora's demand for reimbursement. A man is dead after a shooting in Greeley. Police officers called to a home in the 800 block of 26th Avenue on Wednesday. The 37-year-old man died after he was taken to the hospital. The Weld County Coroner's Office working to confirm the man's identity and his cause of death. No arrests have been announced. First round, British Open, Jacob Olsen, one of the leaders, 60 in Englewood, 59 in Erie, 62 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It is Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A cold front moving south along the Front Range will trigger an excellent chance of showers and thunderstorms today through tonight into tomorrow. Be advised, especially today, of the risk of severe weather with heavy rain, large hail, strong winds. High 70s and low 80s falling into the 70s, upper 50s tonight, 80s tomorrow. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. If you're like us, you know that Thursdays, it's getting late in the week. It's getting tough out there to get going in the morning. Well, we got the solution for you. It's our friends over at Cato's Coffee, proud sponsors of the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. Cato's Coffee was founded by Steve and named in honor of his pup, Cato. And Cato is a bull terrier. And so that's kind of like the Target dog or the Spud McKenzie dog that you see out there. Cute dogs. And when you purchase from Cato's Coffee, portions go to support animal welfare, eco-friendly practices. Your morning cup contributes to positive change for pets and the environment. And Bill and I have been trying all sorts of different delicious flavor profiles, from cowboy coffee to Peruvian coffee. Lots of different brands available. Here's some of the blends. They have a breakfast blend, a 6-bean blend, a Bali Blue, French vanilla, cowboy blend, as I mentioned, Mexican blend, an Italian roast. They also got K-Cup coffees and a whole bunch of teas available as well if you want to go with that side. And a Malaysian chai, an apple cider, a mango treat tea, hibiscus berry tea, English breakfast, jasmine, all of that available. Go to catoscoffee.com. That's KATOSKOFFEE.com. KATOSKOFFEE.com. And if you use the code Jeff and Bill 10, no spaces, Jeff and Bill 10 at checkout, you can get a 10% discount on your order, which is great. Jeff and Bill 10 at checkout for a 10% discount on your order. Also, they have merchandise for you and your furry friend. So upgrade your morning ritual with Cato's Coffee. Again, visit catoscoffee.com to find something that suits your taste today. So, as I was mentioning, I enjoy music, but I don't get into the details the way Bill does. Bill is a music aficionado. He is able to really understand the quality of the music, how the music moves, and why it was written, and how everything comes together. And so I'm really excited about this segment because I fell in love with the song because of the issue addressed in the song. And I've been tracking these issues since I read the book Dreamland by Sam Quinones, which details out how places in our country that had never dealt with heroin problems now all of a sudden had big opioid overdoses taking place. Like, what happened? How did, like, Portsmouth, Ohio, for instance, all of a sudden have massive heroin addiction, opioid addiction issues when this had never happened before? Well, Sam in his book Dreamland details out how this was all a strategy put together by Big Pharma. And it was one of those things where the algorithm of Instagram just served it up perfectly. And I had never heard of her name. And I listened to the song titled "The Devil Wore a Lab Coat." And it was just like, oh, it was just like such a heart hit. And I felt the same way the first time I heard Rich Men North of Richmond, where I just went, man, like this artist taps into something that's so core to a big issue we're dealing with. I'm going to play you part of the song, and then we're going to talk with the artist herself, Mary Cutter. Here's Devil Wore a Lab Coat.
It was, hey doc, there's a thing in my knee. Been working underground since 83. Doctor said I got you the remedy. It'll kill that pain real quick, trust me. Didn't take long, half the town was on it. Didn't ask questions, no, we just popped them. Doctors getting fat from raking in kickbacks. It all happened so fast. One man's grave is another man's paycheck. Our expense at our expense. Forget the coal mines, they hit a gold mine. Hooked us on 6 feet of side effects. Like a wolf dressed in sheep's clothes. The devil wore a lab coat.
Dang, man, that just that cuts.
So good.
She's a Nashville acclaimed singer-songwriter with over 200 million streams and Billboard's top 20 hits as a songwriter. She's going to be performing at Sturgis. She takes time to hang out with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Mary Cutter, thank you for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, y'all. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
So, I like I mentioned, I'm not a big music. I enjoy music, but this, as somebody who's been following the ravaging of the opioid epidemic through the Midwest and parts of Ohio and Kentucky, this just hit me so hard. And I'm gonna ask you, because you helped write this song, you're the performer of this song. Does this come from a place of personal experience?
100% it does. So I had been sitting on this song idea for a while. I grew up in Kentucky, and I saw firsthand how Big Pharma targeted my hometown, towns close to where I grew up, and it just totally changed the entire culture, and they're still reeling from it. And I wanted to write the idea, and I will say, so in Nashville, I don't know how familiar folks are with the songwriting system, but in the country music space, you typically have a writing session every day at 11 o'clock in the morning, and you come in with song ideas. And y'all, I cannot even tell you how many writing sessions I went into, and I was like, y'all, I have this idea. It's about Big Pharma. And they're like, what else you got? And eventually I was in the writing room. We wrote the song, and I wasn't sure how it would be received, but I posted it on social media, just the day of demo recording. Super, super rough, just what we recorded when we were writing the song, and it just exploded. And I wish it wasn't something that folks can relate to, but it seems like it is.
I mean, it really is. I mean, we're getting text messages right now. I love this music. Thank you for playing it. I think when you have a song that connects with somebody's core experiences that they don't quite understand why it's happening to them, right? You have all of these towns through Kentucky, Ohio, the Midwest, where all of a sudden opioid shows up. They don't know why you have these pill factories taking place with all these doctors prescribing it all of a sudden. Then they're watching their friends, their loved ones become addicted to opioids. Then all of a sudden the opioids get addressed. Well, now people are going to heroin and fentanyl, and it's ravaging our communities, and people don't quite understand what happened. They're watching their loved ones suffer from this, and then you have this song that just pierces that experience and becomes a voice for people that are going through it. Talk a little bit about the reception of the song. You released it in May. What have you heard from other people?
I've heard a lot of people's stories. That's the biggest thing. You look at the post on Instagram, TikTok, which, by the way, the song did get taken down from TikTok for a while for misinformation, quote unquote. But it got put back up there, but which is crazy. But the comment sections are just flooded with folks talking about their experiences, and moms who've lost their sons to opioid crisis, sisters, cousins, friends, and folks also talking about how they dealt with it, but they also got out of the cycle. And something that blew my mind, I had written a song from my heart where, I'd seen what it did in my community, but I did not realize how the crisis is literally everywhere in this country. And it's something that I don't think enough folks are talking about, but the response has been pretty crazy.
I spent some time with folks from the DEA, went through their Citizens Academy. They have a campaign out right now called One Pill Can Kill, because it can. A single pill can.
Right.
But I wanted to take people back to the history of what happened. This is important to understand. So there was a drug that was created by Purdue Pharma called Oxycontin. And what they went around to all these conferences with doctors, and what they said was, and this is all detailed in the book called Dreamland, which is a journalistic study through everything that happened here. They went to all these doctor conferences and they said, we have a new miracle drug that is non-addictive. Now, we all laugh and go, of course it's addictive. We've seen it. But they were actually telling the doctors, this is a non-addictive drug. It's miraculous. It deals with pain. People will have chronic pain. And they put a lot of guilt on doctors, saying that if you're not prescribing this, in fact, over prescribing it, you're not being a real good doctor. You're not taking care of your patient's pain, which they called a new vital sign to health. And so they pushed this drug. They then did kickbacks, as you mentioned perfectly in this, which is why I'm surprised TikTok took it down, because there's lots of evidence that this is exactly how it played out. They started taking these doctors on lavish vacations. If you overprescribe this, if you had record numbers of prescriptions, and reminder, this isn't addictive. They kept saying it's not addictive. Then you were taken on these big junkets out to tropical islands and you were treated well. So then doctors are going, well, I'm going to prescribe the hell out of this drug. And so they just started prescribing it over and over again. Then what happened was we got smart about what they were doing, and we shut down Purdue Pharma and some of these other companies. Well, you had people that were addicted to this drug. So then they go to heroin to buy it on the streets. Then fentanyl shows up. This is the roadmap to where we are now. It was all laid out. It took place. And you have real people suffering. And you have this great song by Mary Cutter, Devil Wore a Lab Coat, that gets it exactly right. And then becomes
that
an
means so
anthem.
much to me.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
And, I'll tell you what, Jeff, sorry to talk over you. I got real excited because I was like, this feller is explaining to a T what happened. And that was something, whenever we wrote the song, we were like, we got to stick to the evidence, because this is proven in court. That's what, maybe a lot of folks don't even realize. These are not conspiracy theories, And it's very hard to comprehend folks doing that to another human. But it happened, and I think it is a truth that needs to be called out. And I appreciate you being such a voice for, honestly, not to sound dramatic, but the voiceless, because that's what you do every day on your program. And this issue is one that, folks need to talk about.
That's Mary Cutter. We're replaying her song that she's recorded, Devil Wore a Lab Coat. I want to give you a little bit of a sample as well. She is telling the story about growing up in Kentucky and seeing the opioid epidemic take the lives and destroy those around her and in her community. Here's just a sample. We'll go back to the interview with Mary in just a sec. Talking to Mary Cutter. This is the Jeff and Bill Show. She's joining us live. That's her song, Devil Wore a Lab Coat. Check it out on social media. You can visit her website. You can check her out on social media and share it as well. We'll make it available to you. We are so excited to be talking to her about it. Now, Mary, I want to talk a little bit about the songwriting process. You had this idea to tell the story about the experiences you saw in the community you grew up with in Kentucky. You're in Nashville at the time. You're doing really well. You're making your bones as a songwriter. You've got a number of songs that have hit the top 20 on the billboards. You got more than 200 million streams. You have this idea, but you keep getting shot down. You keep bringing it into the writer's room, and they keep saying, no, no, no. What was it inside of you where you knew there was something here? How did you know this was a story that just needed to be told?
Well, this is the thing. For better or for worse, I really want to write songs that say something. There's nothing wrong with writing songs about, going to the bar, getting a drink, or heartbreak, getting over someone, or falling in love with someone. There's nothing wrong with those. I've definitely written some of those songs that have, been my bread and butter for the last couple of years. But it seems like, folks resonate with songs that are real. And sometimes that is a love song or whatever. But this was such an important thing that's happened and still going on, where the repercussions are still going on in our country. And I knew it was something that needed to be told.
Yeah, and I appreciate the storytelling aspect that you have inside of your writing. You're correct that, we've got that idea of, okay, maybe we've got beer in Mexico. Maybe it's, beer for your horses. There are those songs that are fun to sing along with, but those songs that oftentimes really seem to resonate are those that tell stories. I go back to, and this again, I'm older than most of us here in the conversation, but one of the songs that resonated with my peer group rolling through high school was Garth Brooks and Friends in Low Places, because I knew people who were in low places, and that was a story that he told about it as well. You look at Rodeo, you look at those things that Garth tells. There are some great storytellers throughout it. So let's talk about the songwriting process. For the Jeff and Bill listeners, what is something about the songwriting process when you're in that writer's room in Nashville that we don't know? What's something unexpected that goes on in that writer's room?
I love that question. I have never been asked that before, and it's kind of cool to talk about the writing process because every single morning I wake up and I solo write, then I go to my writing session. So really how the writing world works in Nashville, just about every single song that you hear on the radio in the country music genre. Now in pop it's a little bit different, but with country music in Nashville, you typically have the artist in the room, a producer in the room, and the producer will take care of the recording of the song. And then you'll normally have one more writer that's maybe great with lyrics or great with melodies. And a lot of times, since COVID, a lot of home studios popped up. And so it's really common, like this song, for instance, The Devil Wore a Lab Coat, we wrote in the basement of my buddy's house. He had just bought a house with his wife, and we went over, and he has a little home studio set up that he produces full-blown records out of, which is so crazy. But it's a very homegrown situation where we bounced around different song titles and song ideas, and then how Devil Wore a Lab Coat popped up. So I tell the fellers about it. I was like, hey, I have no idea if folks even want to hear a song about this, but could we tell this story and not make it a sleepy, sad thing? Let's make it an anthem. And my buddy Ross, he picked up his guitar and he started literally playing the guitar lick you hear in the beginning. And we're like, that's it. And that song just kind of fell out in 45 minutes from start to end, which that's pretty fast for the writing process. Normally, a song writing session will be about 3 or 4 hours, but some days you strike gold.
Now, that's Mary Cutter. You're listening to her voice. She's joining Jeff and Bill live. We're highlighting her new song, Devil Wore a Lab Coat. She's talking about her personal experience growing up in Kentucky before she went into the big country music scene in Nashville, and her experience seeing friends, family, and basically her community torn apart by opioid addiction. It's a fantastic song. Make sure you share it on your socials. Now, Mary, I want to know about that time in which, the hair goes up on your arms or on the back of your neck because you know that the song has got something there. You just talked a moment ago about the co-writer takes out his guitar and he hits that opening chord and you're like, oh, that's it. What's it like? How do you know? Where's that secret spider sense come from when you know, oh, that's going to work and that's not going to work? I speak to this because I've been doing radio for more than 3 decades, and I do FM radio in addition to what we do here. And I've told people for decades that I can hear a hit. I can't tell you if a song is going to be a hit. I don't have that kind of superpower, but when I hear a certain song, I know that it's going to be a hit. It's not 100%. I can't win a lottery. But what's it like? Talk to me about when you heard that chord he was playing, you knew it would fit. What's that like? Talk to us about it.
It feels real good, I'll tell you that. And something else that I have found is, and it happened with this song, we were writing the chorus, and one of us said, one man's grave is another man's paycheck. And we all just kind of got real quiet for a second, and we looked at each other and we're like, is that too far? And I was like, maybe. But I say, we say it because it's the truth. And so that entire chorus, we kept on saying things that maybe, almost go too far with the bluntness. And I told the boys at the end, I said, this feels like folks are either going to love it or we're either swinging and hitting a home run or we're really missing. It's one way or the other. And that's what I have found in just about every single song that I have been part of that has done something. It seems like you always have this feeling of this is either really great or really not great. And that's a space that is such a cool place to live in.
Oh, it's amazing. That's kind of what we do on the show here many times. That's Mary Cutter, country music star, joining us because of her new song, Devil Wore a Lab Coat. Jeff ran across it on social media. We think it's absolutely fantastic. We want you to check it out. We'll make it available for you. You can see it on Jeff's socials as well. Check out Mary Cutter online. She's really blowing up now. She's got a really nice resume. She's got some top 20 hits. She's got a bunch of gold records that are sitting on the wall. And Mary, I want to talk to you about that writing process for a second. Share with our listeners, what was it like the very first time that you heard a song on the air that you had a hand in writing? You helped craft it. It's your baby, but now it's been released to the public. What is that like, hearing your work going out live over the air for the very first time?
It's a very special thing. And I've been really blessed to, have helped write songs that, touch a lot of folks. And one of the songs is this song called Wreckage, and it ended up doing a whole bunch of really cool things. It became a platinum record, and, it was on the charts, did the whole shebang, and it struck me. I was in Germany earlier this year. I got a call to play this festival over there, and so I was over there playing a show, and while I was there, Nate Smith, who cut Wreckage, recorded that song, and who I wrote it with, he also had a concert in Germany. So after my shows, I went to go see Nate perform. And we were in this huge arena, and I'm sitting there watching Nate perform, and all of a sudden, the beginning piano of Wreckage begins. And we're literally in Germany, folks. We're not in America. We're not in England or Australia. English is not the first language, right? Folks are pulling out their phones, doing this, at the lighter, and singing along with the chorus. And it struck me how powerful a song can be. And we had written that song, just to tell you a little backstory, it's kind of wild. So all of us writers, we had a whole lot of nothing with a side nothing going on. And it was right before Christmas. Everyone else in Nashville had already gone home. Nate was flying home to California right after our write, and I was going back to Kentucky after our writing session, but we were like, let's get one more session in this year. And we were sitting in this upstairs bedroom turned studio that our co-writer Chris had converted, and I remember writing that song and it being such a special memory at the time because it was just a very raw, real song about loving someone unconditionally. And I had no idea. I don't think any of us knew what it would become. Now, we did have the same kind of spidery senses when we were like, well, this is either really cool having a song that's this vulnerable or it's not, especially with a feller singing it. But in that moment, it was so special. But then fast forward to seeing it with my own eyeballs and hear it with my own ears, how that song is literally jumping the pond. You know what I'm saying? And being heard by so many folks. It's very special.
That's amazing because you're in a country where English is not the first language, and there they are singing along with your song. That's crazy. Yes. Oh, my God. That's Mary Cutter. We're highlighting her song today, Devil Wore a Lab Coat. We'll play more of it for you later. Check it out on socials. You can see Jeff's on Jeff Hunt on X, the Twitters, and you can check it out there. Share it with all of your friends. It's about her personal experience growing up in Kentucky and seeing the opioid epidemic destroy her local community. It's really powerful, and I love the fact that, yes, she's a great storyteller, and she likes to push the line. You know how we like to push the line here on the Jeff and Bill Show. Now, Mary, you've been more than generous with your time. I only got 2 more things that I'm taking up your time. First is I want to know, of all the songs you've written, so that our listeners can go and explore your catalog, what is your favorite? If you had to pick one that you think is the one that means the most to you, what's the one that we should point our listeners to go and find because it's Mary's favorite that she's done?
You know, the song that kind of changed my life in the last year and a half has been a song that's a true story as well. It's about my great-granddaddy who was a bootlegger. And he was a bootlegger in central Kentucky, and then he used that money, not all of it, but some of it, to build a church that is still standing in Kentucky. And growing up, I used to hear stories about my great-grandfather. Obviously, I never met him, but I wrote that song, and it was really the song that leading up to Devil's Money. Before that, I mean, my entire schedule, you know, was writing for other artists to sing the songs that we were writing. But I posted that song, just a snippet of it online. I was standing in front of the church that he had helped build, and it just did its viral thing, and it really kicked down the door with my whole world changing. And that song's just really special to me because the underlying message of it, to me at least, is he was a flawed man, like we all are, but he really loved, you know, his family, he loved his community, he loved God, and he tried to do some good while he was here on earth. So that's really a special one.
Oh, and you are absolutely right. Okay, that's Mary Cutter. You got to check out her song, Devil's Money. We're highlighting Devil Wore a Lab Coat. But, Mary, when you were describing the song, I in Jeff's ear, I told him the title before you mentioned it. I knew the song. It is a fantastic song. I heartily recommend it. It is a wonderful story. You tell the story beautifully.
Thank you.
Yes, it is fantastic. So everybody's got to check that one out as well. Okay, last question I've got right now. What was the very first song you ever wrote? And I mean, even if this goes back to Mary running around with maybe a cassette deck or something else when you're like 8 or 9 years old, what's the first song that you wrote and what was the inspiration?
Well, you know, I don't remember what the lyrics were, but I remember I had my little puppy dog, Sparky, and I grew up on a farm. We had cattle and we had llamas. We had always a bunch of dogs running around, and anyway, I remember my parents were the kind of parents that they tell my brother and me to go outside and play and literally, you know, do our thing until it was supper time in the summer, you know. And I remember just coming up with melodies all the time. And, of course, my doggie was a captive audience, you know. And but it really was a thing that I didn't even know that songwriting was a profession. I guess I should have realized that, you know, because I loved music all along. But it was just kind of something that, although I don't think I even realized I was writing songs, I was from the get-go.
Oh, Mary, that is such a special story. Now, I've got to share with you. Here's just an idea. If you need something else that can go on social media, if you have some of your very early recordings, it may be interesting to go back and revisit them, but through the lens of an older songwriter. It's very difficult to critique other people's songs, but come back and say, this is the advice I would give to young Mary, and talk about it. And this is where we go. And, oh, she's got an idea here, and this is what I'm looking for. And it would be a neat reflection because you're not criticizing anybody but yourself. You're not telling anybody else's baby they're ugly, but you're highlighting the good and the bad, and it might be very interesting for your fans.
I would love that idea. That would be really cool. I would have to, go in the attic and try to find some notebooks from back when I was probably 12 years old, writing about who knows what. But that's a really cool idea.
And wouldn't it be fun to take some of those young songs and then make them modern now and say, this is what we do with it now? It could be kind of fun.
That's Mary Cutter.
Love that. I think that's really cool.
Oh, thanks, Mary.
You can learn more about Mary Cutter if you go to marycutter.com, and she's got all of her social media there. She's got a number of shows coming up. She's going to be playing Sturgis in a few weeks. Mary, M-A-R-Y, Cutter, K-U-T-T-E-R.com, marycutter.com. This is just one of those God things where saw this song, Devil Wears a Lab Coat, and it just hit a chord very powerful. Same way that Richmond, north of Richmond, connected with me when that first came out. Text messages coming in very positive saying she's the whole package. She's got the supermodel good looks. She's got the authenticity. She's a lot of fun like Dolly Parton, and they all love the songs as well. So, Mary, thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show today.
Thank you so much. This has been such a treat. Oh, and I'm hearing a little bit, I don't ever say that people sound like this or the other, but I hear a little bit of Maren Morris in your voice, and I hear a little bit of Trisha Yearwood, but you're not aping either one of them. You've taken some of the best, and your resonance is fantastic.
What a compliment. Thank you, Sugar. I appreciate you both, and this was just a blast. Thank you. Keep crushing it.
Thank you.
Have a great
Mary
day.
Cutter. You can learn more about her at marycutter.com.
It's amazing.
Let's play it one more time. This is the intro to Devil Wears a Lab Coat. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Lots of conversations today. One of the pieces in the Gazette we were discussing with Laura Carno is the growth of assaults taking place against teachers, which is just wild. And we're not talking about, school shootings get all the headlines, which are terrible in themselves, but 50% of teachers in Colorado reporting actually being physically assaulted by students.
And 75% of them have witnessed an incident in which a student tries to assault a teacher or a paraprofessional. And I'll tell you that if you would separate out teachers and paraprofessionals, the percentage of paraprofessionals that are assaulted is much higher than 50%.
These are the ones trying to work with those kids.
They're the kids on the front line, and they're the kids that are responsible for those discipline. You got those problem kids. It's not a teacher that's walking with them and dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. It's a paraprofessional that's out there. When they're out there on the playground and the fights start, it's the paraprofessionals that have to get involved. That's not the teachers.
Let's go to Herb in Denver. Good morning, Herb. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning. I heard that statistic, and I thought to myself, I'm going to call Denver Public Schools. I gave them a call this morning, and I said, so what happens if a student assaults a teacher? And they said, well, depends on a lot of things. Depends on if the teacher wants to press charges. Depends on the matrix, how they're disciplined.
You got the Matrix answer. You got the Matrix. Oh, my God, Herb. Now, Herb, do you know what the Matrix is? and I'm not talking about the Keanu Reeves movie. I'm talking about
going to say
the
the blue pill,
yeah.
red pill.
No, the Matrix is basically, think of it as like a table, not necessarily an actuarial table, but that's kind of the idea. And there is a sliding scale of what the violence is, number of instances, age of the student, and a number of other things that go into it. And that will be some of the determiner based on what the discipline is. And remember that in this instance in the schools, they're always trying to round down. They're always trying to lessen the impact on the student, not on the teacher, but lessen the impact on the student. It's a scary thing.
Yeah, like I was saying, I mean, I went to Denver public schools back in the 70s, and we wouldn't think of doing such a thing. And we were disciplined. I would imagine if a student did that, I mean, they'd be disciplined just like that. I mean,
yeah.
Different times.
And here's the other thing, man, is think about this, Herb, we talk about kids in classes and how we have all these underachievers, but think about if you have one or two in a classroom of 35, you get 1, 2, 3 of these kids that are disruptor. How does that impact the educational opportunities of everybody else in the room? Because as Laura Carno pointed out earlier, that it's not just if a kid in the middle of class gets up and assaults the teacher. It's not just the teacher that has to deal with it. There's an impact on all the rest of the kids. So the kids not only lose out on that learning, but they have the impression that there's another student here in school that is going to punch the adults and attack the adults. How does that impact them just on a daily basis? I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy. It affects everybody. So I asked them, the board, and they said, well, you need to call the school board.
Yes, laugh out loud, yes.
Tay Anderson's going to help with that answer. He's not on the school board anymore, but if you can imagine. Yeah, I understand the problems we're in currently.
Yeah. Now, I got a question for you, Herb. Now, their experiences, and I know it's a number of years past as far as being in high school, though, do you think there is a solution? Now, Jeff, tongue-in-cheek, has suggested that, hey, if the student hits you, let the teacher hit the student back. But, you know, if I gave you the Jeff and Bill magic wand this morning and you were able to create a program or an idea how to deal with this, what would be your ideas?
Well, I mean, my first thought would be suspension. But here's another thought. What about that student would have to, you know, go in front of the school and, you know, declare that I hit this teacher, and just all the consequences that they went through to, you know, instill in the other students, you know, you can't hit a teacher. Something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing but what do we do on the other end? Because, you know, in many cases, it is so hard to get them disciplined. The idea of getting someone suspended, oh my gosh, you would not believe how difficult it is to get a kid expelled from the public school system. And part of that problem is, what do you do with them? Because if this kid's a problem and he's fighting people in class or hitting teachers in class, kicking him loose on the streets and giving him an extra free 8 hours a day isn't going to help. So when you kick him out of school, you expel him. What do you do with him?
Yeah, I heard you say that earlier a few days ago. That's the problem.
Tar and feather. We got guys, it's not hard. You need to put the 10 Commandments up on the walls. You need Catholic nuns in the classrooms, and then tar and feather the parents.
Hey, Herb, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
I'm serious. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Shame. Walk around with a bell of shame. Shame.
You know, there's part of it.
My kid hit a teacher.
Well, the thing is I don't think that we are leaning into some of that peer pressure as much. And we talked about this yesterday, that holding a kid back, that peer pressure of watching everybody else that you're in class with now go ahead while you take the next classes, there is a ton of peer pressure involved in that. Okay, everybody that has had a teenager, has a teenager, anybody going through school, you understand how that peer group functions. You understand that everything from what am I wearing, what lunch I'm bringing. I can't bring a brown bag. Brown bag kids are losers, mom and dad. I can't bring this kind of water bottle. I can't have this kind of backpack. I can't have these shoes. You want to talk about the peer pressure power of telling that kid they're going to sit back in that class while everybody else is a senior next year? There are going to be some changes.
We can figure it out. We just got too soft on these kids. All right. 9 o'clock hour. We're going to be joined by an Arapahoe County Commissioner. Talking about the Arapahoe County Fair coming up, and then Jimmy Singerberger's joining us. Lots to cover. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are 710 KNUS.